So hi everyone and welcome. My name is Kirsten Winkler. I'm the founder of EDUKWEST and today my guest is Jenny Zhu. She is the co-founder of OpenLanguage, and today we are going to talk a little bit about her startup. So welcome Jenny, welcome to the show.
Hi Kirsten. Hi, it's very nice to talk to you today.
So Jenny, for everybody who is not on the one hand familiar with OpenLanguage and on the other hand familiar with you as a person, of course particularly in language learning or education in general, what led you, like after university, when you came into the work life, what led you pick a job in languages?
Well, as I'm Chinese, then we love the mysterious concept of fate, or 缘分 in Chinese. It's actually a lot of just serendipity and chance happenings. But I'm originally from Shanghai, went to junior high and high school in Singapore, and later I went to university in Australia. I studied international relations and policy studies as my major, and I always had a sort of tendency towards languages rather than, I'm rubbish at maths. So I was also studying to be a simultaneous translator after I came back to Shanghai. And I saw this little job ad, which was for a company, a very humble startup called ChinesePod, that was trying to use podcasts back in 2005 and RSS. And the new web technology in general to teach foreigners, and especially busy adult foreign learners, Chinese. So they were back then trying to hire a Chinese host who would be fluent in English and would work with a native English speaker to sort of record an audio that explained a core dialogue, which is entirely in Chinese. So that led me to my very first and so far the only full-time job I've ever had, which was lesson host on ChinesePod. So for the past 7 years, and still I am hosting many lessons on ChinesePod, and very fortunately that company was very successful, and to this day, today I received a scrapbook from a 6th grader in Pennsylvania thanking me for teaching her and her family Chinese. So that's something that I enjoy tremendously and take a lot of pride in. So that's my how I got started with language learning and technology, and the rest is history, as they say.
Well, and I think we can share that you were not only a host of ChinesePod, at least a little later in the story, but you became then, of course, also much more involved, which resulted in you and the other founders selling ChinesePod, which put you in the nice situation, I would say, to be able to start a new startup, fresh also in the language learning space though, so you stick to your turf. And so what led to OpenLanguage? What are you going to make different with the product, because there's still the podcasting element, and naturally you learned a lot of stuff and a lot of useful things through ChinesePod, but what does OpenLanguage do?
Well, like the name suggests, it's a platform opened to different stakeholders who are trying to learn or teach languages. It's basically a service open to students, teachers, and schools, as well as institutions, to help everyone learn language. And really, we want to focus on just using the latest web and mobile technology, because Hank, my co-founder, and I really do believe that the new technologies, and especially the development in mobile, opens up so much tremendous opportunity for language learners and for people that are in the industry like us. For the past 7 years, I think with ChinesePod, it succeeded a lot, I think, foremost as a service that's combined incredible entertainment, engagingness with educational value. And I can't say I coined this phrase, but it's certainly one of my motto, which is edutainment. I believe that for a busy adult, they have competing time demands, and if they pull out their iPods back in 2005, or they pulled out their iPhone, the language or the education media is competing with their favorite song, favorite music. So how do we let them to feel that we're at least half as engaging as their favorite entertainment sources? And I've always believed that in order for someone to learn, that learning resource needs to be engaging so that they keep on learning. They don't feel it's a drag. And that's something that I think ChinesePod and I have, hopefully done pretty well in. But at the same time, I see a lot of sort of bigger problems in the language learning field that we could help to address. Just give you an example, and also it's one of the main missions of OpenLanguage. Over the years at ChinesePod, we've gotten a lot of inquiries from people, from linguists, very passionate language professionals who are saying, do you open your academic management system up so that we could, as a German teacher or as a teacher of Arabic, produce something like ChinesePod? Because we really feel that there is a shortage of practical, of engaging material out there for students. And of course, ChinesePod wasn't in a position to do that. But it's one of the things, the modernization of lesson publishing, and I think namely just help publishers, big or small, push their content onto top devices that the students are using on a daily basis. And that's one of the key focus of OpenLanguage. And we are doing that through our backend publishing system, as well as our tablet textbook app, which we help publishers to push out their content and distribute it to students' iPhones, iPads, and of course Android devices.
Okay, so that's very interesting, and let me ask a little bit more here. So we have to imagine OpenLanguage as sort of a system in two parts. I, as the, as you pointed out, the busy language learner or a language learner in general, I can come on the OpenLanguage platform or in the system and look independently what courses are available for me, and simply then subscribe to a particular teacher that you have on OpenLanguage. And on the other hand, I, as a language teacher or also as a school, I can come on OpenLanguage and produce materials. These materials are then audio, like ChinesePod, or as you mentioned, the tablet textbook. Is it sort of a mix of a book or digital materials and MP3s? How does it work? Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, we've actually gone through several iterations. I think you can it almost as an iTunes or Coursera or an iTunes U for language learning, where for the students, they come onto OpenLanguage, through the mobile app or onto the website, and they will see a number of different languages that they can learn. We've partnered up with several lesson publishers, and now we currently offer more than half a dozen languages, everything from English, Spanish, French to Arabic, and also Russian. So they will see a list of different languages that they could study, in which we work with a partner that we've vetted and gone through quite a long collaborative relationship to make sure that we're on the same page in terms of pedagogical approach and in terms of just what value we could be adding for the learner overall. And then for the student, really, for example, through the OpenLanguage textbook, tablet textbook app, if you are trying to study Arabic, for instance, you choose the Arabic Anywhere channel on OpenLanguage, and then you will see a list of courses that they published. And these publishers, they usually publish quite frequently, and I think that's one of the beauties of the modern publishing system, that it is rather quick and cost-effective to push out new content. And onto your question about whether they get audio or video, I've always believed that, I guess in some sense, I'm form agnostic. Don't really pigeonhole myself into a video learning company and an audio. I've instead always believed that we need to look at what purpose are we trying to achieve for the student. I think there are many elements in learning that need a visual element. For example, if you're trying to study character and writing in Chinese. But there are also many elements in learning that audio is a very good medium for. And I think that's speaks to the strengths of the success of ChinesePod, where we mainly through the use of audio give students learning input portion, where two teacher presenters sort of walk them through what the core language means in a piece of audio. So, but currently, most of our publishers are using audio as their main form of communication or medium. And there are many reasons, and I'm not afraid to be honest or blunt here, but I think for many publishers, in the beginning, it's a lot easier to produce high-quality audio content. And I think, Kirsten, you might speak to that yourself, that it probably takes 10 times more the sort of manpower and production expertise to achieve the same level of production value for video. So we encourage our publishers to, and of course, the audio is something that I've developed a lot of knowledge in, hopefully, and can pass on that to them. So they're launching with mainly audio pieces. And if you look at the whole learning experience, the students will listen to a lesson which is centered around a core dialogue at target language. But that dialogue is then extrapolated and explained in both the target language and the native language by two lesson presenters. So very similar to the ChinesePod experience if we're UC. And then as they were doing that, receiving that audio input, the student can also look at the language in more detail through different sections on the tablet textbook. And I think that's something that learning a language needs. You can't learn simply by listening. And this is one of the things, I think, with ChinesePod, it's both a blessing and a curse because of the brand. It's so closely associated with podcast. And I think in instances, it might have given people sort of the wrong expectation or not a very comprehensive view of what it takes to learn language.
And would you then say when you target professionals, so they are already in the language with Chinese or Arabic, so some of the, Chinese is somewhat already established, but some of the other upcoming languages, you mentioned Russian, is this people then let's say, average customer or the role model is somebody from a Western culture, for instance, relocating then to China or in one of the Arabic countries or Russia, and they want to learn the language and are really at a beginner level, or do you see, due to your experience, is this people who already tried other methods and have maybe somewhat of an understanding, but really need to train conversation and hear it, and in the Chinese aspect, of course, and Arabic naturally, and even Russian, now I'm thinking about it, also need to write, learn to write the characters?
Hmm. Well, I would say that if anything, that's the underlying common theme of our target market is that the busy white-collar adults, the learners who are very motivated, have the intention and the will to learn a new language, whether it's for personal growth or more practical reasons, like you mentioned, an expat living in one of the countries. But my work at ChinesePod, it was primarily a service that grew out of, if you will, a pet project of the founders. They were foreigners, they were expats living in China and were very frustrated by the options that they had learning Chinese. If you look at, I think, language learning in general, still now, the mainstream still gravitates toward a traditional classroom, textbooks, or CD-ROMs. But I think, I've always believed that technology should be used as plumbing to help teachers and students. Technology isn't here to replace anyone. I think rather it's here to replace activities that could be done better, more smartly, more efficient and effectively for everyone. So I think our core belief is that, and the busy adult professional market is a market that we've had a lot of experience in and know pretty well, both their pain points, motivation, and what products and services that we need to be designing for. And really amongst these groups, with OpenLanguage, I would probably generally divide our markets into the international market or the English-speaking market who are trying to learn a language other than English, and then the market that's trying to learn English. And within that market, since we're based here in China and me being a Chinese who've gone through the process of learning English, China is also a key market for us. And so far, it's the biggest market for us in terms of revenue and market size.
Yeah, I can imagine because, as you mentioned, traditional structures and traditional classrooms and the Chinese, of course, every other customer group as well. But I imagine the Chinese who really want to learn for the diploma probably still decide for, let's say, a traditional language school, whereas the ones who really want to speak English and to practice their spoken English, then I can really see the opportunity in going for the open language product. And yeah, that definitely makes sense. And about the other group, the publishers, we talked a little bit about the struggle of, producing audio already. On the one hand, you have a lot of experiences, maybe producing video, but online materials, mobile learning materials in general, do they get training? And how do I have to imagine if, let's say, I'm a publisher for German or maybe French, and I'm interested in creating materials. How do I use the website? Do I simply come on the site? And tell us a little bit about the selection process.
Sure. And I would probably start stepping back even further because I find that when I mention the word publisher, sort of the people's instinct is think of very established publishing houses. And they're actually one of our target groups, and we've been in talks with very established publishers. At the same time, I think now this user-generated content, the opportunity that web and mobile opens up for very passionate and sort of very experienced professionals who might be working as a language teacher or a school, for instance, who have the in-house capability to produce their content. That's also a group that we are working with. And to be honest, that group is the group that has been sort of sending in inquiries, questions to me even back in the days of ChinesePod, and just saying, what you guys have done really inspired me. You created something that's not on the market, and I believe something, I wanted to do something similar because I feel that there is a different way to learn the language. So with this group of publishers, what OpenLanguage offers them is we provide the underlying technology, the plumbing, that allow them to enter their content digitally into our system. So if you don't mind too much buzzwords, it's a cloud-based solution. For example, the Arabic school, Arabic Anywhere, they're actually based in Jordan, Amman. So they have a team dedicated to writing the probably the most progressive curriculum for teaching modern standard Arabic. But it's still a very, very niche language, even though it's a very popular strategic language to learn internationally. So it's traditionally very hard to get things published. And they're saying to me, they're teachers of modern standard Arabic for 20 years or so. They probably only have 2 or 3 textbooks written in both Arabic and English to choose from. And the pedagogy and sort of the teaching approach is very one-dimensional, very limited, and it's very hard for an average beginner student to even get their foot into the door. And that's very similar to the situation of Chinese when we started 7 years ago. So with this kind of publishers, usually they bring their sort of academic expertise and backbone writing the curriculum, and we give them the tools so that they can enter their content digitally, and then by simply click a publish button, that content gets sent and distributed to the OpenLanguage tablet textbook app, which then the students from all over the world can learn any language, really.
Okay, great. So, of course, we are simultaneously handling the 2 groups, but whether I'm an individual language learner, or maybe I have a language school and I want to assign my students to having something audio and something visual, or on the other hand, I'm a publisher, where should I go? Simply on OpenLanguage.com, or should I go on iTunes? You mentioned iTunes U. What is the best way to get more information and to find the courses if I want to purchase, or at least I would like to get in touch and see how to purchase, or maybe to create even materials?
Sure. The best place to go is still OpenLanguage, whether you go to openlanguage.com or discover us in App Store or Google Play. Search for OpenLanguage. So it will give you hopefully a good idea of what we're trying to do, the products that we're offering, and for different stakeholders, you'll find the relevant information for you. And of course, you can also Twitter, send me tweets or Facebook messages. Just look for Jenny Zhu at Jenny.Zhu at openlanguage.com.
Perfect, Jenny. Any closing statements? How do you imagine for you and naturally the rest of the team as well? How do you imagine the month to come? Well, we are in October, so the end of the year, or in Chinese, it's a little bit, in China, it's a little bit different. But let's say the year is coming to an end. How do you imagine the next 6 months for you to happen? Where do you want to be sort of with your next steps for OpenLanguage?
At heart, I really do believe that learning needs to adapt to the changes in people's lifestyles. And that's sort of the driving force and motto for me since 2005 with ChinesePod. I don't use technology for the sake of using technology. I think it's never a good idea to say, okay, let's now have everyone learn a smartphone or a tablet. That's not the case. But I think we can really dig down and look at which part of the learning process, what the activities can be enhanced and helped by the new technologies that keep changing very rapidly. Like I said, with ChinesePod, back in 2005, it was RSS podcasting, whereas now, OpenLanguage, you don't even need to worry about subscribing to RSS. You get everything in your app. So technologies have changed. And I think as a company that has the mission of just leveraging the latest technology to help people learn, there's always a lot to be done. And I haven't mentioned this earlier, but the ultimate goal of OpenLanguage is really we would like to work together with different online language learning services to offer an alternative to traditional language proficiency exams. In many ways, Kirsten, I'm very inspired by your concept of the language graph, which sort of rewards students, and I would say recognizes that learning doesn't just lie within the confined walls of the classroom. Where does learning stop and start? It's very dynamic and fluid, as it has always been. But in this day and age, I think with the options that technology has opened up, it gives us the opportunity to track what a student has studied, not in the past week, the past months when they're preparing for their IELTS or TOEFL, but over the years, all the activities or the sessions that they've done on different services. So I think really we need to, as a whole, the online language learning industry come together and say, let's think of some way to reward, encourage, and validate the students for their continued dedication and investment in language learning. They might not get the highest score on TOEFL and IELTS, and they might not even take that test, but something could reflect and track the long-term progress that they've made. So with OpenLanguage, we're actually spearheading something called the Language Graph, which will be a third-party initiative that we are leading. And it works probably a bit like Google Analytics, that we will be using Open API to track students' sessions. So what they've studied, which device they've studied, detailed down to the vocabulary items they've saved, or the different activities they've done on various sites, not only limited to OpenLanguage, and hopefully presented, lay it out in a simple to understand dashboard, if you will, so that I think forward-thinking employers and hopefully more and more schools and institutions can use it as a reference alongside traditional language tests. And I think really it's there's a lot of talk and hype about big data and data liberation, and we would like to use it for to speak for the students, to reflect their commitment and hard work all these years and the progress that they've made. And I'm very excited about the tablet textbook app for both iOS and Android. And I can share one piece of data with you just as my sort of last remarks today. 95% of the paying customers on OpenLanguage, be it from North America, international markets, or in China, are using our service on their smartphone or tablets. That's one of the things that we do track now, and I think, and you also hear from personal comments that they just feel how important it is for learning to be on a machine that they're with 24/7. And I think in many ways, mobile technology has changed and impacted so many different areas in our life, whether it's communication or entertainment, and there's no reason why learning shouldn't be there. So I'd like to, this is an industry I love, and I'm very passionate about the intersection between learning and technology. So hopefully we'll just work hard, plow through, and realize our big vision in the future.
Well, so this is somewhat the underlying bigger vision, which is of course very encouraging and interesting to hear. And well, then good luck for the months to come, and I will definitely follow OpenLanguage and see how it grows in the different areas. So thank you, Jenny, for coming on today and sharing some of the experiences that led to OpenLanguage, and yeah, very exciting to hear what you're building now.
And thank you very much for interviewing me today.